Hey there, y'all. Welcome back to the True North Sports Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Barclay, and tonight we are getting into episode 2, and our topic for the evening is going to be Wrestlemania. It was this past weekend, Easter weekend. It was a 2-night extravaganza, so we have lots to get to. And we had some highs, some lows, some in-betweens. And yeah, we're just going to break down each match. We're going to give you a recap. And feel free to give us a comment after you're listening to the episode, while you're listening to it. If you agree with the opinions, if you don't, let us know. Alright, so let's jump into it. And WrestleMania opened with a bang. First match of the night opened with the entrance of Gunther. Now, his entrance is kinda but you know what's coming right after. So it was a great way to kick off the show and follow Gunther, his opponent, and someone who is super duper white hot right now is Jey Uso. And Jey is someone who I remember 2006, 7, somewhere in there. This young brash tag team burst on the scene. They bright colors, the Samoa music, and they were just young and full of energy. They were the Usos. So for about 20 years now, I've been watching Jimmy and Jey grow both as characters. I remember when they went from having the Samoan character and the face paint, they moved into something a little more edgy and a little more hip-hop like. And then obviously they transitioned to the New Day, and now main event Jey Uso. And his entrance on Saturday night was white hot. And then the match did not disappoint. Gunther is really strong in the ring. Jey's no slouch himself. They put on a really good match, solid match, told a really good story. And you could just feel the authenticity of this match. It was a great way to kick off WrestleMania. And as to the delight of the crowd, Jey walked out with the Heavyweight Championship. So that was our first title changing hands over the weekend. Again, great way to start off the night. And from there, we kind of slowed down just a little bit. Now, the next match was the New Day and the War Raiders. And I've been watching Xavier Woods since his days in TNA, and Kofi since he burst into the scene back around the same time the Usos did. Watched them grow. Unfortunately, they're trying to keep the New Day thing going. I think both those guys will be better served either with new partners or singles runs or just something that isn't New Day. Their shtick, they've been doing New Day for over 10 years now. Or just about 10 years. And so it's a little much at this point. I know they're supposed to be heels. They're supposed to be hated. They're trying to do that, but they were loved for so long. It's hard to hate them. But they get the crowd reaction you're looking for. They're good on the mic. Amazing storytellers, because the New Day and the Usos before the Bloodline story were some of the best tag matches since back in the days of Edge and the Hardy Boys and Team 3D, Bubba Ray and Devon. They put on matches that made you reminisce of those days of tag matches. Now, the match with the War Raiders, the War Raiders showed off some incredible athleticism. Unfortunately, it was just a match. It kind of filled time. There were some real, crazy spots that were really nice. There wasn't much story to what they were doing in the ring. Now, New Day walked out with the championships. That's another notch in their belt, championship-wise. We'll see how the story progresses after WrestleMania. And that led us into our next match. And this story has been building since at least Christmas, probably. Maybe even a bit before that. The Who Attacked Jade Cargill story. And we got a pre-payoff at Elimination Chamber when Jade returned, and we finally got to find out who it was. Now, her opponent in this match was Naomi. And the reason it was Naomi is because a little bit before Elimination Chamber, they showed a video of Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez entering what looked to be the area where Jade got attacked. And so Liv, when she saw Jade, did a beautiful job of selling the fact that she thought she was in trouble. And Jade walked towards her with purpose and then took a turn and attacked Naomi. Now, Bianca, being locked in a pod, couldn't do anything about it, and she sold the distraught friend to a T that night. Now, afterwards, there was promos back and forth, this and that, and the match now at WrestleMania. So, here we go. Now, there were a moment here, a moment there where it wasn't perfectly fluid, but they told a really good story. The match flowed as it should. There were some beautiful spots, some amazing displays of strength, especially from Jade, but from Naomi too. And Naomi's the veteran. She's been around a very, very long time now. And so this match was everything you would hope it would be. It was fire right from the beginning. The crowd was into it because of the story. And they got the ending they were hoping for. And that was Jade got her revenge. She ended up winning against Naomi. And so moving into the next match here. And this match, I haven't been following the US Championship as much lately. Now, LA Knight, he's a good champion. He was champion for a little while. LA Knight, sadly, kind of reminds me of he'll be the next Miz. If Miz ever decides to retire, he'll be that spot. You can put him with anyone. He's a safe worker. He's a good worker. He knows how to get a reaction and work the crowd. And enter Jacob Fatu. How do you get a belt onto Jacob Fatu? Because the werewolf is relentless, and he was coming, and it didn't matter who was in his way. Now, as a character, Jacob is so new, and his athletic ability is off the charts. His character is designed to no-sell the offense of his opponent, and he does that really well. His facials are amazing. He is so good at those things. The only drawback that Jacob is going to have to work on moving forward, especially now that he's got the belt, is he doesn't come across real well on the mic. And the best part about his character is he could do a Kane Undertaker thing where it's less is more. The less he says, the more pointed he is when he says it, the better Jacob Fatu will be. So, getting to the match now, LA Knight really sold the match. Jacob did his thing. LA put up a fight. He did really well at that. And unfortunately for LA Knight, he lost his championship. Jacob won his first belt, at least in the singles realm. And we will see how Jacob progresses from here. It'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see who can take the belt from Jacob now. And hopefully he is able to really excel and bring meaning to the US Championship. LA did that, but hopefully Jacob carries it forward and it doesn't just get lost in the shuffle. And I really hope they don't put him in a program with Solo. I don't know about you guys, but I really don't want to see that. We'll see where it goes. And on moving into the next match here, we had, and this one, it was so hard, this match, to really get into it that much. Rey Mysterio not being able to go, that was a real drawback. Rey Fenix admirably filled in on short notice. He did the best that he could. This whole storyline though with El Grande Americano, everyone knows it's Chad Gable. This Chad Gable is an amazing worker. In the ring, he's great. He can do a decent promo. He's like the next coming of Kurt Angle at this point. Not that he's as good as Kurt was, but he's very similar. And it's sad that they're forcing him to do the Spanish accent. It doesn't fit with him very well. One of the greatest things about that match though is, and leading up to it, is that piece of metal that he sticks in the mask that he's wearing. And that's great because that's that slimy heel thing that you need to pull off a character like this. And he did it to perfection. He did it so well. Only thing is, unfortunately, the match was a dud. As expected, El Grande Americano came out the winner, and it really kind of slowed the momentum of the night a little bit. Moving into the next match, we had our second women's match of the night, and this one was not as good as the first one. This one was Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair. Now, I think Charlotte came back too soon. I don't think her injuries are ready for the kind of torture, as it were, that Charlotte's going to put her body through. I know she really wanted to come back. She has such a history. She's very good at telling a story in the ring, out of the ring. She's great on the mic. Her in-ring actual wrestling ability, though, lacks the position she's been given at this stage of women's wrestling. Now, she did so much. Let's not take anything away from Charlotte Flair. When, when Paige and AJ Lee kicked off the Women's Revolution and Charlotte, Bayley, and Becky came in, they really kicked it up a notch. And the boss, Sasha Banks. When those four came in right on the heels of Paige and AJ, they really took it up a notch in terms of the quality of the women's wrestling. Sadly, at this point though, I really think Charlotte's been surpassed by a lot of the competition in terms of putting on a good match. I think her injury held her back a little bit, so the match was a bit more clunky and less fluid than what we're used to seeing from Charlotte. Tiffany did well for Tiffany. I think she's really young. She's doing her best at the character that she has right now. But her in-ring ability, while it's way better than it used to be, it still needs a lot of improvement. So this match was solid. But it just lacked that it factor that you want from your champion. Now, Charlotte seemed to tweak her knee at a point in the match, and I don't know if that's the reason they decided on the ending that they did, but Tiffany Stratton ended up the victor, retained her title, and then that was like a pre-main event. And we're into the main event of night one. And this match is what a main event is all about. This is the triple threat between Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk, and Paul Heyman at ringside. Now this match was a masterclass, from the build-up with all the storylines, the promos, the back and forth between the three guys, having Heyman be kind of tug of war between Reigns and Punk, and as usual, Heyman just put on a masterclass of what a heel, slimy, just that manager is supposed to be. And so this match was well told. The story was really well told. It went back and forth. It went around. There were high spots. There were different interactions, like between Seth and Roman, and Punk doing his slimy little giggles when they were at each other, and just the whole bit. And every time you saw Paul in the background, his facial expressions, where he moved, just everything that he did was Paul Heyman perfection. Like, he is just, there's no one else like him in the industry right now. And so then, and it was interesting because I said to the people I was watching the show with, I'm like, you watch. There's going to come a time in this match where Paul has to decide between CM Punk and Roman Reigns. And that moment appeared when Paul went and got the chair, because they both had kind of tried to yo-yo him back and forth and draw him in a little bit. And then he turned, not once, but twice, on both of his guys. And it allowed Seth to pick up the win. And it'll be interesting, the reaction between Seth and Paul at the end, where this storyline goes. It would seem, and we'll see how it turns out, but it would seem that Seth is now a Paul Heyman guy. Not that he needs help on the mic. Maybe it was a one-off, but it was a real interesting way to end off the night. So that's night one. We're going to hop over into night two. Now tonight may be a little bit longer than our usual, what's going to be our usual of a half hour, just because there's two full shows to unpack here. So, let's see. Night number 2, it kicked off again. The opening matches were just plain fire. They were real good at getting the audiences involved. And this was another triple threat match. This one went between Io Sky, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley. Now, each of these 3 ladies, they are just unbelievable at what they do. They are good ring technicians, they have good skill sets, and they tell good stories in the ring. Now, there was a moment or two where the fluidity could have been better. I remember a specific instance with Bianca where a move she did was a little bit out of sorts, and there was a moment or two with Io that was that way. Overall, though, it was a very strong match. It was a good opening match, and you could just see that in all likelihood it was going to be Io retaining, and that's how it ended up. So that's match number 1 of night 2. And we went from there into some pretty cool entrances and a good solid match to continue the momentum. It was a Sin City street fight between Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. Now, these two are hard-hitting guys. They're big guys, and they're really good in the ring. So they were back and forth and up and down and around, and they could do anything they wanted being a street fight. There's no disqualification, and it was just a really well done match. It was solid. It wasn't like fire, but it wasn't horrible, and it was just what you would expect from those two guys. And that match easily on a Monday night, on a different pay-per-view, that could have easily been a main event match. And those two guys are main event guys. So it ended up where Drew pulled out the victory. And we'll see how that storyline goes, because it'll be interesting where those two guys go, because there doesn't seem to be a lot going on for either one of them right now. And that kind of seems like what the story is with those two is, well, there's nothing else to do, let's just put them together. So we will see how it goes. And yeah, Drew picked up the win, and that moved us into what was maybe the best match out of the entire weekend. This match was an actual fatal 4-way, so anything goes the whole night. Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, Penta, Braun Breaker. So 2 kids of former wrestlers in Dominic Mysterio and Braun Breaker. You have Rey Mysterio being Dominic's dad, and Rick Steiner from back in the day being Braun's dad. And as you would expect from the 4 names that I just mentioned, this match was a barn burner. Right off the jump, it was just, you know what you're getting from Braun Breaker. It's intensity all day long. And so it was just a hard-hitting, back and forth, up and down. There were high spots. There were spots outside the ring. Guys fought up into the crowd a little bit. Carlito got involved at one point and got a huge, massive spear from Braun Breaker. And it came down to the point where Finn had thought he had won. Actually, Penta too, at a point, thought he had won. And so as Finn covered Braun to get the win, there was a frog splash from Dominic, and he rolled up Finn for the win. And remember, Fatal 4-Way, the champ doesn't have to be involved for him to lose his championship. So when Dominic rolled up Finn and got the 3 count. He walked out Intercontinental Champion. And as far as I can remember, that's his first singles title. He's been in the tag team picture a time or two. It'll be interesting where this story goes, because you would imagine that Braun is going to be upset. He's going to want his title back. And we'll see how long Mysterio can slippery slime his way to keeping it. You would expect him to come face to face, one-on-one with Braun. We'll see how that goes. So, Dominic, you're Intercontinental Champion. Now, this next match was one of the biggest disappointments of the night. Randy Orton. He's been around so long. He's like Cena, one of those cats that's just always there, steady as can be unless he's injured. Always can put on a good match if you need him to. He can get anyone over. Safe to work with, all that kind of stuff. Great on the mic. This was his 20th anniversary at Wrestlemania. And sadly, it was tough because Kevin Owens dropped out, and we don't know how planned that was, how legit it was. But there were so many opportunities with this match. You could have had a one-off with an Edge, a Jericho, a John Moxley, even a Kenny Omega. There's lots of options out there. You could have had a Hardy return. Broken Matt would have been great. There's a lot of history with some of those guys. You could have had some up-and-comers. Thomas Ciampa. Thinking of Carmelo Hayes. There's any number of guys that didn't have anything that you could have stuck in or just moved into that spot. So it was very disappointing as a fan that they went outside of WWE and got Joe Hendry. Now, Joe Hendry is top dog in TNA. To me, it was like, why would you do that to yourself if you're the champion? There's no reason for you to be coming over to WWE and allowing yourself to be fed to Randy Orton in a squash. Now, I don't know Randy's physical condition, but if you're going to squash somebody, why not pick just a stooge from outside the company? But Joe Hendry isn't that guy. If anything, they should have made this a full 20-minute match and made it a better match. If I was Joe Hendry, I would have made that in the contract. So it was a disappointing match. Obviously, at his 20th anniversary, Randy Orton pulled out the win. And that moved us into the next match. And this match was your typical match. It was a great match. All the spots you want were there. AJ Styles and Logan Paul. AJ took a Styles clash. He gave a Styles clash. It was up, it was down, it was around, but it was everything you would want. Logan Paul pulling out the victory. And it just came out as a solid match. Now the next match went from being something that we thought was going to be solid and a good match, and it just turned into fire. We had Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez defending their women's tag championships. It was supposed to be Lyra Valkyria and Bayley, and someone attacked Bayley before the show. And who knows, this may turn into something with Bayley. Maybe it was just a way to do what happened next. And so Lyra had to find a partner. And there was a lot of opportunities here that people in the back they could have brought out. It was the most brilliant thing they could have done. And when Becky's music hit, the crowd just went bonkers. And so Becky Lynch returned and fought side by side with the women's Intercontinental Champion Lyra, and they ended up winning, defeating Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. They told a great story throughout the match, and again, this one had all the spots you're looking for: finishers, people breaking up pins, in, out, around, saving matches, all that kind of stuff. Everything you want from a good tag match. And again, yeah, Becky and Lyra came out champions again. Lyra's a double champion right now. And yeah, it was a great match. That moved us into a moment with Steve Austin. He got the Steve Austin pop. Everything was great up until he hit the barricade with the four-wheeler. Things went a little bit crazy at that point. Austin, being the consummate professional, came through it okay, made sure the fan was okay, and got through what he was doing. And that match and the Austin moment led us into the final match of WrestleMania. And that was the John Cena Cody Rhodes match. Now, I've been a fan of wrestling for 30 years. Hard to believe, but it's been that long now. And so, ever since he came on the scene, John's been my guy. I've always liked John. He's done great character work. He's been one of the best on the mic. And he even went toe-to-toe and came out even maybe a little bit on top with The Rock. He went toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns. In fact, it's good that he did that because it made Roman become better. And the back and forth between him and Cody was just next level. It was just, again, like the previous night's main event, this was a masterclass in storytelling. I know John's been away a little bit, so when he locked in the STF on Cody, there was a moment where for me it was hard to believe, just simply because I've seen him very literally knock out Edge with the STF, and Edge even admitted it later on. Yeah, that move knocked me out. It's a real move, right? So the fact that you could tell it wasn't quite cinched in properly on Cody, that was a bit of a But for John, this was a really good match. They pushed each other. It went back and forth. And one of the promos leading up to the match, John said, Cody, you're going to have to choose whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. And that moment came. John had the turnbuckle exposed. He had the belt in his hand. Cody took the belt from John. And you could just see the angst in his face. It was great. It was a beautiful moment. And Cody realized, I can't do this. And John's like, but I can. So he grabbed the belt, hit Cody with it, got the 1, 2, 3. John is now a 17-time champion, so he holds the record for the time being. We'll see if it's ever broken. And he walked out the champ. Now, that probably got a lot of people upset. I encourage you, if you were one of them, don't be. There's more to this coming. John's playing this heel very, very well. And I can see this program running into SummerSlam, maybe even up to Hell in a Cell in the fall, where John loses it walking away into the sunset. So we'll see how it goes. But for now, your champion and mine, John Cena. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of Wrestlemania. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. One man's opinion, but I really enjoyed it. I thought this is a very strong pay-per-view. The storytelling was really well done. Everything just went so well. You had a couple of surprise comebacks. You had some things that you didn't think were going to happen that happened. And yeah, it was just overall a really solid show. And we'll see how things shake down going into Backlash. Alright guys, that's it for me. That's another episode of True North Sports Talk. Hopefully you guys are liking the content here. If you are, please subscribe to our channel. We need those subscriptions to come in. Get those notifications coming. You can find us Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, any one of those spots for your podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. In the comments, again, interact with us. Let us know what you thought of WrestleMania if you watched it. And also let us know what you'd like to see future episodes of True North Sports Talk be about. Give us topics, give us things that you want to see. And yeah, let us know. Until then, I'll see you on the next episode. I'm out.